A student just told Charlie Kirk that what is growing inside a pregnant woman is not a baby. It is a fetus. Kirk paused, and then he asked one question. A question about Latin, and the entire debate stopped.
Why is it that the 6-week baby is of less moral worth?
Well, first of all, it's not a baby, it's a fetus.
Well, what does fetus mean?
A fetus is in utero.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
What the f?
Here is the thing. Most people watching that moment had no idea who was right. Not because the question was hard, but because nobody in that room and almost nobody watching actually knew what the word fetus means, or where it comes from, or how it is different from the two other words that had already appeared in this debate without anyone noticing. Zygote, embryo, and fetus. 3 different words, 3 different stages, and one debate that treated all 3 as if they meant the same thing. By the end of this episode, you will know the difference, and you will understand exactly what Kirk's Latin question actually proved. Spoiler, it is not what he thought it proved. Welcome to the Rewind. 1 clip, 1 term, all the way down. Before we get into the definitions, I want to give you a way to think about all 3 words at once. Think about a seed, a sprout, and a tree. A seed has everything it needs to become a tree. The full genetic blueprint is in there from day 1, but it is not a sprout, and it is definitely not a tree. A sprout has started growing. It has structure. You can see it becoming something, but it is not a tree yet. The tree is the fully developed version, the thing the seed was always going to become if everything went right along the way. A zygote is the seed, an embryo is the sprout, and the fetus is the tree, still growing, still becoming. Same process, 3 completely different moments in that process. Now, hold that image, and let us go through each one.
First, I think that, your position is quite absurd, right? Because you're saying that it is murder to kill a human being, right, at any point in development, especially when it's in the mother's womb. My question to you would be, well, does this make women with IUDs murderers? Because it is the case that in some scenarios, an IUD will allow for conception to occur, meaning there's a unique human life there, but it will prevent its implantation, intentionally killing it.
Well, no, preventing implantation is not necessarily the same thing as terminating a fertilized egg. For example, if you take Plan B, again, it's not the same thing. Preventing the production of progesterone is not the same thing as terminating a being that has been fertilized. You do not know for a fact that the egg has been fertilized. You do not know that when you have an IUD.
Okay, yeah, so preventing fertilization or implantation to the uterine lining is killing a conceived zygote. So what happens? A sperm goes into the egg, right? The egg becomes fertilized. It's a conceived zygote. In some cases, it will prevent the implantation of the conceived zygote, killing the conceived zygote.
In some cases, correct.
So what do you say in some cases, women with IUDs are murderers?
Of course not, they're not murderers. We do not know for a case. That's like saying that
So what's the difference between an IUD killing a conceived zygote and like a mother going to Planned Parenthood and killing the fetus in her womb?
Well, so you're asking 2 separate things. If they knew for certain, to be more clear, that I have a fertilized egg and I'm going to take a drug to prevent that fertilized egg from attaching to their uterine wall, then yes, that is an act of killing or murder, of course.
Okay, so do you think all murderers should go to jail?
Zygote. This is the word that belongs at the very beginning. A zygote forms in the first moments after a sperm cell fertilizes an egg. It is a single cell, just one tiny cell with a complete set of human DNA already inside it. 23 chromosomes from the egg, 23 from the sperm, combined into one. No organs, no heartbeat, no brain. Just a single cell with the full genetic blueprint of a human being. The zygote stage lasts roughly 4 to 5 days. In this debate, a student uses the phrase conceived zygote during a discussion about IUDs. That is the correct term for that stage. Most people let it slide past, missing how the word conceived was intentionally used to shift the focus from a purely clinical cell to the moral and ethical status of a newly created life. Now the second word, embryo. Once the zygote implants in the uterine wall, it becomes an embryo. This stage begins around week 2. It runs through week 8. During these weeks, the basic structures of the body start forming. The neural tube that will become the brain and spinal cord, the early heart, the foundations of the limbs, This is the most critical window of development. The embryo stage is also when most miscarriages occur. When people talk about embryonic stem cell research, this is the stage they are referring to. Now the third word, the one that started the argument, fetus. At week 9, roughly 2 months in, the developing human is medically classified as a fetus. This stage runs from week 9 all the way to birth. Now, back to the seed, sprout, and tree analogy. The zygote is the seed. The embryo is the sprout. The fetus is the tree still growing. 3 stages. One word used to describe all 3. That is where the confusion lives.
Why is it that the 6-week baby is of less moral worth?
Well, first of all, it's not a baby, it's a fetus.
Well, what does fetus mean?
A fetus is in utero.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
What the f? I'm sorry, is this a language class?
It means little human being.
Ooh, his smile is very creepy. Okay.
Smiling is creepy.
No, your smile specifically.
Got it.
But let's go back we're losing track here.
No, but what species is the fetus?
The fetus is not a species yet. It's technically classified as a parasite until it is viable.
So,
now I want to talk to you about something very quickly.
I can't let you get past that. Are you saying a baby is a disease or a tumor?
A parasite is not a disease and a tumor. Those are not the same thing. A parasite is defined as something that cannot survive outside of its host. A baby, before it is viable, cannot survive outside of a woman's womb.
Got it. So let's extrapolate that.
It is not a living organism.
Are old people with Alzheimer's and dementia that are being assisted every day, are they parasites?
No, they're not parasites. They're human beings who are on the brink of death.
Got it. So
they're not going to be able to survive.
My 4-month-old that requires mom's breast milk and requires daily changes and feedings cannot survive without its own. Is my 4-month-old a parasite?
Your baby can breathe on its own. Your baby can drink water from its mouth to its stomach.
But it cannot.
Your baby can
it
eat
hunt?
food.
Can it gather? Can it reason?
But that's not what qualifies something as being a living organism. Being a living organism simply means, can you survive outside of a womb, outside of your host?
Got it. So I just want to make sure I'm clear. Why does that then equate to moral viability?
It equates to scientific viability.
Why? Under what standard?
Because it is not alive, and you are advocating for the rights of something that is not technically a life.
Got it. So what is something
while
that has
sacrificing the needs of the human woman who is alive.
Got it. So, but a mom can survive.
Yes.
Without the baby in her. Right?
Yes.
The baby cannot survive without the mom.
Yes.
But a mom cannot survive without her lungs. So it's not her body, it's in her body. It's not her DNA, so it's not her choice. So it
actually is directly her DNA.
Now, Kirk asked what fetus means in Latin. The student didn't know, so Kirk replied, "Little human being." Let us slow down here, because this is the moment everyone thought they understood, but did not. The Latin word fetus most directly translates to offspring, or the act of bearing young. Some scholars connect it to a root meaning fruitful or productive. Little human being is not the standard Latin definition. It is closer to a rhetorical interpretation than a linguistic one. The student didn't know Latin meaning of fetus. But here is what the student should have pushed back on. Even if the Latin root did mean little human being, that would tell you something about how ancient Romans chose to name the concept. It would tell you nothing about what moral or legal status that stage of development should carry in 21st century law. Latin etymology is interesting, but it is not a legal argument. That is what made the moment feel like a win for Kirk without actually settling anything. Kirk asked a question about language, then gave the student a slightly wrong answer, and the debate moved on, without either of them noticing that they just had a conversation about words, while the actual biological question went completely unanswered. Clever is not the same as clarifying, so why does it matter which word you use? Because the entire abortion debate turns on questions of moral worth and legal status at different points in development. And those questions mean completely different things depending on which stage you are actually talking about. A conversation about a zygote, 1 cell, 4 days old, before implantation, is a fundamentally different conversation from one about an 8-week embryo with a forming heartbeat, which is a different conversation again from one about a 24-week fetus with measurable brain activity. In this clip, Kirk and the students use the word fetus, as if it covers all three stages equally. It does not. Medical terminology exists precisely to make these distinctions. When those distinctions collapse into a single word, the argument becomes almost impossible to resolve, because the two sides are often not even talking about the same stage. They are arguing about different points on the timeline using the same language, and neither one realizes it. This exact confusion pattern shows up in medicine constantly. Think about the word cancer. A doctor tells two different patients they have cancer. One has a slow-growing benign tumor that may never need treatment. The other has an aggressive stage 4 diagnosis requiring immediate intervention. Same word, completely different medical reality, completely different conversation, completely different urgency. If both patients walk out of that office having heard the same word and neither asks which kind, they are not equipped to make a single decision about their own health. That is what happens when you collapse a spectrum into a single term. The word survives, the distinction dies, and the conversation suffers for it. Go back and watch that debate now. With zygote, embryo, and fetus clearly separated in your mind, you will notice something you could not see before. Kirk and the students are not just disagreeing on values, they are talking past each other on biology, using terms interchangeably when the biology itself draws clear lines between them. The student who said, "It is not a baby, it is a fetus," was using the correct medical term for that stage, but did not know enough about what that term actually meant when she is faced to hold her ground when challenged. And Kirk's Latin question was a question about the name of the concept, not about the concept itself. Two different conversations, neither of them noticed. Now, you did. You just learned something that most people watching that debate did not know, not which side is right. That is not what we do here. But you now know what the words actually mean. And the next time you hear zygote, embryo, or fetus dropped into a debate, you will know exactly which stage is being talked about, and whether the person using the word knows the difference. That is the whole point. Subscribe to The Rewind so you never fall behind a conversation again. And drop in the comments the term from this clip you want us to zoom in on next. We read everyone. That is actually how we pick what comes next. Next week, we are going back into the same debate, and we are zooming further to see if college is a scam. I will see you on The Rewind.